All right, we've got a couple of people coming in at this point, and it is the top of the hour or bottom of the hour at 4:30 Mountain Standard Time. Thank you for those of you who have joined us thus far. We're going to give you guys a little bit of something to think about as we sort of get people rolling in here. So as people are coming on in, welcome. We'll do a little introduction in just a few minutes, but I want you to just take a look at this slide and sort of think about the definition as we're talking about starting with strengths. And I hope everybody's feeling like you're starting the school year off with strengths. You're starting and focusing on something that's strong with you, and really leading every day as you get out of bed and you go to lift up other people and their strengths, that you are grounding yourself in a strength that you have. So go ahead and read this definition. We'll let a couple more people join our webinar, and then we'll do some introductions. And if you have any thoughts about this definition, the chat is always open, and we would love for this to be conversational. So thank you, Shirag, Emily, Jill, Steve, welcome. And I'm going to, as we come off of thinking about what strengths are, if you agree with this and it's something that you want to steal, we will make sure that this presentation is available to you at the end of our time together today. So I'm going to move into kind of introducing who your panelists are today. I'm so happy to be with you coming from Colorado. I'm Jeanette Simonson with Team Thrively. There's a picture of me and my family from the weekend. We actually went up to Breckenridge and spent a glorious weekend up in the mountains. And some of my strengths really are worldly, creative thinking, coordination, verbal, and athleticism. And I do try to lead with my number one strength, which is worldly, to really think about diverse situations and people and try to understand them a little bit more. I really love doing that. So I want to turn it over to my teammate, Jacqueline, and she can introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Vasco. I'm coming to you from San Diego, California. I have my strengths of compassion, flexibility, social justice, verbal, and worldly. And I like to think about my top 5 strengths as like my Avengers, where they come together and they're all working equally as hard to make me my best self. It comes out a lot in my profession as an educator, where I'm working really hard to build curiosity, capacity, and creativity within kids. So I am primarily a kindergarten teacher by trade, and as well as a previous assistant principal at a school, TK through 8th, and I'm excited to talk strengths today as we are be able to uplift each other with strengths and see how it fits into our classroom every day.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. So we're coming to all of you from, Jacqueline has just come out of the classroom. I've been out of the classroom for about 2 years. I used Thrively in the classroom for 4 years prior to that. And I would love for you all to share a little bit about maybe where you're coming from, a little bit about what you do professionally, who you teach, what your top strength is. And Shirag has informed me that the chat feature is maybe not quite working as it should right now. So you might want to throw it in the Q&A. And just share that. We're gonna work on fixing that in just a moment. So because I definitely want to hear from all of you. Let's see. All right. Well, I'm gonna tackle the chat issue, and I'm gonna hand it over to my colleague Jacqueline, and she's gonna take us through a strengths warm-up.
All right. So a really simple way to activate your strengths and the strengths of your students every day is by playing these little simple games that have us thinking and talking about strengths. And it can kind of be disguised in this fun way. So we're going to play 4 corners digitally today. A lot of times right now you can be playing 4 corners live in your classroom, where you actually can move bodies to different corners of the classroom. But today we're going to play virtually. And I'll set up the game a little bit for you. So you're going to be given a link to a Jamboard. A Jamboard is just another interactive tool that we can use in order to all put our hands on the same board. And this Jamboard is going to have a prompt in the middle of a cloud. That prompt is going to have 4 options for you to be able to choose which answer best fits you today in this moment. And you're going to also see a Post-it note with a polka dot on it. You're going to steal one of those polka dots and you're going to take it and you're going to write your name on it. And then you're going to move it to the correct corner. Let me show you first before we jump in together. So here is my screen. The first prompt, like I mentioned inside the cloud, is what is your top creative skill you do most often? You're going to steal one of these yellow polka dot Post-it. If you double click on it, you'll be able to write your name. And where I am feeling most creative in my skill is currently in art. So I'm going to move it over into the art corner, which is called corner 1 when we do it live in person. All right, so I'm going to send this to you so you will be able to have access to this Jamboard and you'll be able to do that first question.
Okay, so we're having, unfortunately, we're trying to get the chat working. Chirag, I'm needing your support here. If he's hearing me, he's my tech support here. And in fact, I'm gonna allow everyone to talk and to chat. Here, I found a little trick here. So maybe I've gotten it working now. Let me know if you guys can now chat.
I just dropped the Jamboard in.
Perfect.
That might help.
Yes.
And I saw Steve, he also answered in the Q&A. Steve from Salt Lake City, he teaches music and theater. He's gonna have something fun to say about his creative outlet, I'm sure. Thanks, Jill, it's good to see you.
You know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna promote everyone. Since we have a small group today, let's all be panelists. And I'm just gonna promote you all to panelists because then we have more access to being able to share and see your faces too, which is so fun. I don't know about you guys, but I'm definitely ready to be done with Zoom some days.
I'm gonna open up share settings too. I think I didn't do that. Sorry about that, everybody.
So I just promoted everyone to panelist, and that's okay if you're declining to it. Then I hope you still have access to see the chat. So go ahead, Jacqueline, and you guys can take yourself off. Make sure your screens are blank. That's totally fine.
Marley is in the music corner. She messaged in the chat. Thank you for participating. All right, we're gonna do one more. If you're jumping in right now, we're playing 4 corners, so you can grab in the chat. There is a link to this Jamboard. When you get to the Jamboard, you can steal a polka dot on a Post-it and you'll be able to write your name by double clicking. This strengths question is, what is something you're most proud of about yourself? Are you most proud of in corner 1, your drive to achieve the goal, the care that you have for others, your YOLO ways, you only live once, so you go after it. Or corner 4, are you most proud of the work that you do in supporting learners? So go ahead and take your Post-it on the Jamboard, double click, write your name, and move it to where you want it to go. I'm gonna say my YOLO ways today. I'm feeling adventurous. If you also, your care for others, that's wonderful. I see that in the chat too. That's a great way to be flexible and achieve the same goal, Miley. Thank you. Awesome. So we just wanted to get you in the mode of thinking about your strengths and how you're showing up today with those strengths in your back pocket. So this is a little activity that you could still take tomorrow, use in your classroom physically, or you can use it virtually if you're online like us. We're going to get back into our next step. Jeanette, you're muted.
I'm muted. That's not going to help. So really the strengths warm up, as Jacqueline mentioned, is such a great way you can do this in your classroom. And so think about once you know student strengths, and we're going to jump to the next slide because these are really, as we look at this document here, this has 23 strengths on it. And I'm sure you're looking this over and you're saying, if you have taken a strength assessment before, you may know what your top strengths are. I'm curious as to how many of you actually have taken a Thrively Strength Assessment or maybe even the Gallup Strength Assessment and could pick your top 2 or 3. So let's take a minute just to look at this for a moment and say, what do you think is your top strength today or overall? And I know it's kind of small, so let me actually populate this. This is a little bit bigger probably. And if we scroll down. And I love the definitions here. The definitions are the things that really drive the instruction. So if a student comes to you and says, yep, resilience is one of my top strengths, let's read the definition. You have grit, you deal with challenges, stress, and pressure with optimism. You might ask them a question if they go to that corner, give me an example of a time that you dealt with stress and pressure. How did you do that? Share that with the class. Maybe that's something that they even do a small little presentation on. So there's lots of ways that we can use these strength cards, and these will be available to you guys. We're going to give you access to this document. But just if you want to throw in the chat, maybe one of your top strengths, or just mindfully ground yourself in what your top strength is. And when you ground yourself in strength, you lead with more confidence. You have the ability to overcome challenges. We know this from the research. And so think about how then you translate what we're doing with you into your classroom. Thrively gives you this really awesome way. It's free. The strength assessment is free to every student in your school. And you can then go back and really highlight those strengths over the course of this year. So I know we have another activity, but I want to really set our intention. Why strengths? When I came to this position of kind of leading teachers, when I was an instructional coach and an administrator, I can say wholeheartedly, if I could get every student and every staff member to feel that they have talents, that they belong here, that they're respected and valued, and that they have a contribution to make, I have successfully done my job. And I think we feel that even in the classroom when we think about our students. If our students could say all 4 of these things when they leave our classroom or midway through, imagine the environment we'd be creating for them. So through the activity, the next activity we have, we have lots of offline activities, online activities. This is an offline one that Jacqueline's going to take us through. Do you want me to open it up, Jacqueline, or you want me to go back to the previous slide?
You can leave it here for right now, and then I'll give a little overview and have you go back. Thanks.
Okay.
So what we've found and what we know is that we want this strengths assessment to be real for kids. We want kids to be able to have this culture of care and be seen, heard, and valued for their strengths first. And it has to live offline as well as online on our Thrively platform. So some of the ways that we're bringing this Thrively Strengths Assessment to life is by giving a lot of chance for vocabulary development and creating a culture of shared language. And so that comes around this idea of one activity called I Can Icon. So think about an icon, what you see on your phone every day, or an icon that you see when you were looking at the 23 strengths layout on a few slides ago. An icon is a really simple image that symbolizes something more that that people recognize easily. So if you're looking closely here, I'm looking at compassion and I see some hands that are in a peace sign shape. I see balance and I see the traditional scales. When this activity of I Can Icon has students looking deeply into the definition of these strengths as teams, and it has them also looking into other outside areas like magazines or books or different media that they can pull from and be able to collect a lot of images that would support a specific strength that we have. So again, like balance, like compassion. And I have an example of student work right here. So this was, I believe this was patience, right? So these were all things collected and gathered around patience. And what the next step after they're collecting and gathering all this evidence is to create a new icon to represent that strength. So give it another boost of a image to create that strength. So we could do this right now if you would go back to the 23 strengths, Jeanette, on our deck of if you take a moment to draw a few different circles on a piece of paper or in your notebook somewhere, look at one specific strength that you identify with. Maybe it's flexibility, academic, worldly, and then push yourself to use that creative skill that we were talking about earlier, just to draw a simple doodle in your circle that would represent that strength. I did it for patience a little bit ago. I drew a clock in one, something super simple. I drew a bread, like a loaf of bread, because for me, I need so much patience when I'm cooking sourdough. So if you have a moment and you have an idea, you can either put that in the chat, what your icon would look like, or you can continue sketching your little quick images. What we do at the end of this activity with students is we collect all of the icons that were created and we post them on the strengths posters around the classroom. So they're living as that fourth icon. Because when you see the strengths posters, they have 3 icons on them, and then the kids are able to give them that fourth icon that will deepen their understanding, and they'll be able to give language to the whole group on how and why that fits.
And I'm going to just put in the chat here for those of you that are multitasking like we all do. I've given you access to the presentation and to the document, the ICANN lesson plan. So our whole goal today is really to leave you with a couple of neat ideas. Of course, we don't have time with a 30-minute webinar to dive deep into this whole lesson plan, but we hope it's something that you can modify for your grade level, or maybe there's a bit or a piece to it that you really want to incorporate. And I think this is so important. What I've seen happen, not only in my own classrooms, we'll take the strength assessment and immediately I'll have a whole list of information about kids and then we move on. And like Jacqueline said, there's so many things that we can do every week, every day to ground ourselves in, let's celebrate all the flexible thinkers. Let's come up with a new icon that represents ourselves. Let's do a vision board, right? All of these things that we've maybe incorporated in our lesson planning are really wonderful ideas for not only SEL, but just bringing ourselves together so we know each other better. And again, when we know each other better, and I can say about Jacqueline, right? Her ability to be flexible and patient is something that I value so much in a teammate, and I can celebrate her as I get to know her more and more. Imagine if your staff did this, right? So I did have a question in the chat I wanted to address. Marley, you asked about how can you take for teachers and staff to take the strength assessment. I want to just take a moment to just go to thrively.com and show you guys really quickly before I jump into, I don't want to go to webinars, but that just populated there. To show you guys how you can make a free account, because it is really important for all of you to be able to get to the free resources that we're talking about. So if you're not a member, sign up today. So thrively.com/registration. You can join as an educator, and then it'll ask you for a number of email addresses, your email address, a password, first and last name. You can go ahead then, as you make an account, you can go ahead and take the Thrively Strength Assessment for free, okay? And what that looks like, and I'm going to come back into logging into our demo account, which I will absolutely share you the resources for this demo account as well. But notice up here, you can just click right here, take strength assessment is what it'll say. Now this demo account has already taken the strength assessment. So let me show you, because this is actually the next slide. What Thrively gives you after you take the strength assessment is this wonderful write-up. You're a powerful problem solver, a creative thinker, and a global thinker. Your strengths are academic, creative thinking, worldly. Notice the vocabulary comes along with this. And then this is the part I love, and students read this and they're just laughing. I've had students, jump up and celebrate. I don't know, Jacqueline, if you've seen, you taught younger grades, I taught middle school. So I had, some tough guys standing up going, yeah, I am, but I don't know, what tell me a little bit about the kids that took the strength assessment.
I think the standouts for me are the kids who start to get really shy and they haven't had somebody like pinpoint them like that. So they kind of get that introverted smile where they don't want to show too much. So they kind of, have this, they don't know what to do with their appreciation.
Yeah. But this stays with them. And now the greatest part about this is, and this is, again, when we think about connecting, you can invite parents. Imagine they show up for conferences and you give them, here's the write-up about your child, and it's all positive and uplifting. We even have 23 pages of uplifting information about students. So there's a lot here, but again, think about connecting parents, teachers, staff, everybody who's involved in the education of a child to be able to talk about strengths rather than deficits, to be able to lead. I was a math teacher, so I always got I hate math and I'm not good at math when they'd walk in my classroom and I go, well, wait a minute, do you like money? And how about those Air Jordans? Do you like those? Because those are kind of expensive. And they perk up and go, you're going to learn about how to make money in this class. And suddenly they're like all in, right? So you just have to find things that they're interested in, find what they're good at. Thank you for that, Marley. Hopefully that answered your question. And Steve, yes, it is exactly what educators and students need. And I hope that you guys find the power in elevating with strengths, right? So in coming back to our activities, I know Jacqueline has so many offline activities to share, and we welcome, we'll give you our information later if you want to have a conversation. We love writing curriculum and we love being a part of your lives and helping you. We have another resource here that I love doing with staff. I love it. I love it. We did this with my whole staff at my last school district. Every staff member created a user guide, their top strengths. They answered some of these prompts here. What do I want in life? What do I want to learn? What do I wish people knew about me? My favorite Post-it note game for kids is what I wish people knew, right? Imagine if you knew this about each one of your staff members and then your students. I don't know, Jacqueline, if you want to add anything, because I know you did user guides all the time with your little kids.
Yeah, I think for the simple way to think about the user guide for us was, if you're building a Lego set, like what are the tools that you need in order to build your Legos? And then what are the hidden rules that you need, right? Like, so you need persistence, you need to be able to be flexible. So we kind of use it in that way, in that frame, so that when we're going into team time and when we're working together, what are those things we want to remember about ourselves and each other? So that way we can come together and be the best that we can be as a team. In that primary grade, it's all about like, how do we work as a unit, and how do I as an individual contribute to that unit? So this is a really helpful way, and it gives kids, again, another chance for them to be able to like see each other in a different way than we normally give them the opportunity to.
It's a game changer, everybody. And if you haven't tried it yet, we have tons and tons of lessons that are free. So the way that I showed you how to log in, these lessons here, I'm just going to dive into this group here. The lessons and the playlists that are designed, this is a 3rd through 5th grade, and it allows students to go in and say, okay, I have assertiveness. Let's go learn what assertiveness is about. And in 30 minutes, I can learn about assertiveness. I can understand the differences between other attributes, and then they can write, or they can audio or video record a reflection. So I love that it asks this prompt, what do you think it means to be assertive? And you as the teacher can start to build this relationship with a student that gets to understand, what do they think about their strengths? Always a definition that comes along with this. And then, where or with whom do you find yourself being the most assertive in your life? Sometimes I think we as adults could use some of these lessons, right? And then I learn about types of communication and a little reflection. But we're never too young to make a difference. I love this one, Greta Thunberg. She was an aggressive one, and she stood for a cause. And so we learn a little bit about what she stood for and how she did it. So students are not only reading and watching and learning about their strengths, but they're also connecting with others that have those strengths. I think that's the power of Thrively too, is being able to, identify outside of our ecosystem, outside of our classroom, what other people are doing. Lastly, I just want to kind of touch on the data that you get from this looks similar to this. So you're able to log in and see your class. I have 15 analytical students. Wait a minute, who are they? How can I use their strengths in project-based learning or in some team time, as Jacqueline said? I can also come down here and say, well, I need a couple leaders. I can click on that blue leadership line and up pops those 6 students. Who are they? Maybe they're going to be my team leaders in my next project we're going to do. So it helps to group, it helps to understand diverse thinking. As early as K-2, they start going, wait, I'm really good at this and you're really good at that, and we'd be great partners, you know? And so I really love seeing that unfold. And just the youngest kids have the darndest conversations for sure about that. I want to honor our time together today. We are going to stay after for a couple of questions, so if you do want to stay on, but I do want to just really highlight the fact that in a research study that I just read, it said that most people and children are not aware of the strengths they possess. And I have to admit, when I took the Strengths Finder through Gallup, and then I took obviously the Thrively one, I learned about myself. I was like, well, yeah, actually I am a little bit like that. And I do this activity with kids. I'll put up the 23 strengths and I'll say, what do you think you are? And then I'll give them the assessment and we'll see how much it matches. Sometimes it's spot on and sometimes it's way off, and that generates conversations as well. We have a number of examples in this slide on how adults can create strengths experiences in their classrooms and in their schools. So certainly take a moment to click on that if you're scrolling through. There's a number of ideas. Again, you know, how do we connect to their interests? How do we allow them to read stories and write stories about strengths, about people who have similar strengths? So you reading and writing teachers out there, great opportunity. When we're playing and reflecting, I think Jacqueline said it, we're playing with Legos. What strength did I use to play with those Legos, and how did I use my strengths to play with others? Give them time to reflect on those. And then I think most importantly, if you all show your vulnerability, I'm strong, you're strong in the same thing I'm strong in, or, you know, this is why we're doing it, we're clarifying our purpose. So there's a lot of really good examples here, and I hope you guys continue to add to this, because you're the people who are doing the hard work right now in the classrooms. But I think the reality is a student's awareness of strengths is biased by significant others. You are one of those significant others, teachers, family, and friends. And when we lead with, oh, you know, you're not good at fractions, so we need to work on that more. I had a lot of behavior issues in Chicago Public Schools with that approach. When I led with, wow, you're really good at this, let's build upon it, I then got buy-in and confidence and much less, fear, I think, out of the students. So let's promote his and her strengths. We know the impact. This is what the research says: increased confidence, engagement, well-being. Students are more self-aware, which is the thing that we know we're driving for SEL. They're more productive and creative in your classes. How we measure this could be a really interesting topic of conversation for your staff, but the research has been done, and this has been really profound, that when we lead with strengths and we lead with interests, we know that we get more out of our students and they feel more connected to us. And remember, it just takes one adult in a child's life to change the trajectory of their life, to give them those wings to fly and to go out and do the things that we know they're capable of. That's why we're in this, everybody, right? So this is the strengths report we've already shown you. This is what you get. I hope you all go home and take the strengths assessment. You do have to put on your high school hat or your middle school hat to take the assessment, because it is built for K-12, not for adults. But I hope that you read this afternoon, or when you take it, and you sit up a little higher and you celebrate yourself a little bit more and think about what you're feeling and how that can translate in your classroom. Thrively stands behind being a whole child learning platform, and we want to create those experiences for you and for your classrooms and your students. So this whole series is about discovering strengths, but in our subsequent webinars, we'll be talking about developing skills. We have a whole set of skill development lessons. Please poke around. We are very high on our list as promoting well-being, from a daily check-in to weekly and month-long projects. And then we have a brand new HOPE index, which measures the hope, the agency and the pathway to be able to be hopeful as we come out of some trying times. So I really hope that you will set an intention with us today with just a minute left. What will you keep doing? What will you start doing? And what will you stop doing? Don't let policy and mandates decide this for you. You decide it for yourself. Watch Karen Pittman at some point in time if you need a little like, yes, I can do it, because she is motivating. And please take a moment if you have time. I'm going to put this in the chat. I would love to give you all free, if you don't have free Thrively right now, to be able to use in your classrooms. Let me give this to everybody. If you fill out this form and you're able to connect us to an administrator or a counselor or somebody who might be interested in learning a little bit more, we will give you 90 days of free pro access. And that will give you a real big head start on getting to know your students and doing some lessons. And Jacqueline and I are available. I'm going to put my email address in here as well and allow you to reach out and have conversations with us about what we can do to help support you. Oops, let me spell my. And we are open for any questions or any resources that you all want to share with each other as well. So we'll stay on for just a little bit longer, but I really appreciate everybody joining us this afternoon. Jacqueline, do you want to finish off with anything?
I just want to say thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we at Thrively have this saying that has come around, which is, what is strong with you? So I can't wait to see you using that phrase with your students and yourself. So thank you for being here.
Are there any questions on how, I see Steve, our school's currently, we will learn from Yale. Yep. Absolutely. Well, I am happy, Steve, to give you, again, you need to pilot things and you need to see how it fits in with your current situation. So if you send me a personal email with your email address, go ahead and make a free account. And then I can go ahead and activate Pro for you as soon as tomorrow. And you can be somebody who kind of tells me, how does it fit in? Because I will never dare to come into your environment and say, this is how it fits in, until I've spent a few more days with you. So happy to help out. And Marley, you are absolutely welcome. If there's anything else we can do to help support you in your classroom, both from early childhood to middle school through high school, we're here to help support you. And join us in 2 weeks. We'll be talking about staff interactions and bringing Carly Spina, who is a nationwide guru on how to bring together staff and really highlight the strengths of each other. So I hope you'll join us with that.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you for joining us. Emily, thanks for joining us as well. I know you are probably multitasking with other people, but have a fantastic week, and we look forward to reconnecting with you at some point in time.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thanks, Steve.
You're welcome.
Let me know how it works out, okay? I'll expect to hear from
will.
you. And
I'm
I'll be
really
in, you're in
excited
Utah,
about
right?
Yes.
I'll be in Utah, I think, in the next 2 months. So
Oh, super.
I'll let
Good.
you know when I'm in the area
All
in
right.
Ogden.
I'm really excited about this. I've been thinking about this philosophy for quite some time, and I think this is just right what our students need right now. So
Great. Well, I hope you see, you're a music teacher. Is that what I
Yes.
read earlier?
Mhm.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It fits in so well with that. And,
Yeah.
you know, the advocacy behind the interests, right? I'll show you there's an interest profiler in there that I think you'll find as you start to build up after school programs, which is actually how I came to Thrively. We'll have to talk about that and that'll come with your pro. So poke around in there, generate some questions, and we'll circle back for sure.
excellent. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Have a great evening, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.